Hello. Welcome to the first video of welcome to the first video of this self-care series that I'm doing this group. So we're going to do about 6 videos, I think, maybe more, maybe less, about what self-care is and how we can implement it in our lives. So as soon as you can hear me, go ahead and comment below what you think self-care is, and then we'll get started. And I will wait a few minutes to see if anyone comments, and if not, I'll just go on my little spiel and talk about what self-care is to me and give a little assignment. So when you can see this, hear this, comment below and say what self-care is to you. You might hear my dog barking. Sorry about that. Zizi, shh. Shh. Always something, a kid or a dog, or I should really use up the space, but so self-care, there's a lot of things that people call self-care. I really would like to know what you think of it before I go on my spiel, but to me, ultimately, self-care is a vehicle for self-love. So if you can hear this, I would love to know what you think of self-care, what you think self-love is, what you think of those things, if you can hear me. So self-care, like I just said, is a vehicle for self-love. At the same time, self-care guides you, or self-love guides you to self-care. So they're a feedback loop. And there is a subtle difference between them. So self-care to me are actions that reinforce your selfhood. They reinforce all levels of health, your mental, spiritual, physical, emotional health. And all of those things inform how much you learn to love yourself. And so I don't think that self-love is something you earn. I think that all of us have the capability of loving ourselves, even if it's moment by moment. So self-love to me does not mean that you don't find yourself without flaw. It doesn't mean that you're perfect and you've reached a place of ultimate enlightenment or anything like that. I think self-love is something that we can all have to a point. And self-care are practices that teach us about ourselves. It's like this little mystery that we have. It's and how to love ourselves better. And sometimes we get caught up in doing all these things that are going to hopefully teach us how to love ourselves better. And we get caught up on the right things. I have been very much almost addicted to self-development, personal development. I love it, so can be kind of a confusion. So self-care is not doing all the right things that you've read in Mind Body Green or something like that. Self-care is simple. Self-care is gentle. So self-care ultimately teaches you how to care for yourself and how to love yourself. So Kimberly, thanks for chiming in. Kimberly's saying she feels blocked in self-care at the moment. So thinking of redefining self-care and self-love might be good. Usually your self-care would consist of yoga, meditation, etc. Yeah. So I would ask you, what do these practices do for you when you, how do you feel when you do them? I could probably guess, but so how do you feel when you enact these these ways of self-care? And then if also, how do you feel when you miss them? Do you feel guilty? Is it something that you feel like you should do every single day, no matter what? Is there a certain practice that you feel like you have to have in order to be able to love yourself? So the way I've been redefining self-care, and it's been a process because I'm definitely a recovering perfectionist. I'm always looking at new methods and ways to care for myself and to do the best, most effective way to care for myself. And lately it's been, hi May, it's been more gentle, and that is a tough thing for me. And so intuitively guided self-care is what I want to teach during this 6-week little mini course here. So how could you define self-care intuitively? Obviously, you're an intuitive worker, so how could you define self-care at this moment for in a way that's loving and kind, and that's not grounded in perfectionism? Maybe that's just me projecting, but that's one of my main issues that I've struggled with, is trying to be perfectly good at self-care. And so that's another thing. Self-care is not a list of things to do. It's not, it should never make you feel guilty, like you're not doing enough. That's not loving to yourself. So a self-care practice could be as simple as taking a nap, which, I've had a lot of guilt about even doing that simple thing. A self-care practice could be the complete opposite. It could be like waking up super early and doing a really long yoga practice, And something else about self-care, especially intuitively guided self-care, is that it changes day by day. And so that is another thing. I'm all about committing to a practice to see how it fits for you. But if something's not working and your intuition tells you to do something else, that's where your practice is, and that's the loving way to practice self-care. Does that make any sense, Kimberly? I think I rambled a bit, but so yeah, are you picking up on the difference between self-care and self-love? I'm guessing you already know the difference, but do you see how they can feed off each other and how intuition can play a big role in that? I think there might be a bit of a delay, but so again, self-care teaches you how to love yourself. Your self-love teaches you how to care for yourself. So they're kind of a feedback loop. So one feeds another, and they're constantly feeding back and forth. I wish that I had a card, but I'll post it. Temperance is something I've been working with this month, is that kind of like balancing what needs to be done. Like, I know that I need to eat well to feel better, to feel good, but at the same time, I don't need to be obsessive. So, there's this like give and take. Like, I really love going to the gym and working out, exercising, because I have really high energy. But there's some days where, my family needs more focus. So it's like that give and take between self-care and self-love. So, and it's all based on your intuition. So, May, I'm going to read what you said. Yes, perfectionism and self-care is something I'm working on to release. And I'll just say it's not. I'm still, I love that, because I can definitely relate to that. So self-care is becoming mindfulness of my actual needs and not what I'm telling myself I should need because of an idea of who I should be. And that's just it. It should not be in your vocabulary when you're thinking about self-care, which basically makes not judging where I'm being my main focus of self-care, letting that be what guides me forward. That is so beautiful, May. So that's what I'm getting at. You can, we'd like to use our intuition. Both of you are intuitive workers. So we like to use our intuition for like huge questions and things that are really dramatic sometimes. But what if we use our intuition on how we move our body that day? What if we used our intuition of how we ate that day? What if we used our intuition of what we wanted to learn? All of these things, some areas might be stronger for you than others intuitively. So that word should, that really defines that perfectionism should. I should be this, I should be that, I should be doing this, and I should be doing that. That is such a trap, and I've fallen into it over and over again. in the new year, we fall into that shouldness. I should be doing this. And then how many of you have had this humongous list of like things we should be doing? I know I've done that. Even this year, I'm like, even becoming more at ease has been a should. It's like, oh, I shouldn't work too hard. It's just this gets kind of ridiculous. But if you're coming back to yourself, you're coming back to your self-love, your intuitive self-love, intuitive self-care, you'll know what to do that day. So I'll read what Kimberly posted. I'm not regimented or planning type of person at all, but I'm also a perfectionist in other ways. So the perfectionism keeps me from my practice more than it gets me to practice. It helps me to go to class when I feel like I can't get the perfect time and space set up at home. Helps me to go to a class. Okay. Yes. So I have definitely, if I think I'm getting you correctly. Yeah, so for me, I am a planning person. So I don't know if you can relate to this at all, but I'll like plan out this perfect routine that I'm supposed to do every day. And there's some power in committing. I'm not going to say that there's not power in committing to a practice, but there is this, if that should nagging guilt is ever there, then you know right then and there that you're doing something that is not self-loving. So yeah, so you can have a space, and in this time and space that something happens, something around self-care, you open that space up. For instance, you say you will go to a class. Going to a class is perfect because this time that space already exists, that sacred space already exists, the time there for you to be cared for, you not having to plan out what you're going to be doing is huge. So I'm all about learning from others, being in a space. So if I were to release this need to plan out what happens in my mornings, but every morning I wake up at a certain time, no matter what, and I commit to my self-care, that's super important. But what I should be doing in that moment, maybe that doesn't always need to happen. So see, there's that give and take. And do you guys see how that's kind of the temperance card? So I've been looking for a new apartment, so letting go of what I should do for self-care due to lack of time, but maybe there's a bit of self-love in that. Yes, there is. So yeah, you letting that go is self-loving. So I feel like self-care is also really been commodified. So that's maybe another whole topic, maybe another video, but yeah, we'll go over that more next week or next time. So you never like laziness as Americans, and both of you are Americans, North Americans. It's like such a negative connotation, like a negative, we don't even know what real laziness is because we don't know how to rest in the country. And then we also think resting should be expensive and it should be rare. So we need to go get massages. We need to go take a vacation, and then we hold off until there's like this big window open for us. But if you integrate self-care, what is possible at that very moment, what would happen if you created 30 minutes, 5 minutes to yourself every day? Let's say 5. Let's say 5 minutes every day you will do something. You don't have to know what it is, but that time and space exists for you. If going to a class is what is available to you, if you have that time and those resources, and that's amazing if you can do that. So what is possible now? What it gets rid of that what I should be doing. What is possible now? What does my body, my mind, my spirit need? And intuitively checking in with even the simplest thing. Something else I've been working on is working with not only the moon, but also my personal cycles as a woman. So that's something else. There's a lot of, if you've ever been into exercising, like I should do this, I should do that. I should go to the gym because I've committed to running 3 times a week for a month or something like that. But I have horrible cramps, or I'm really fatigued for some reason. Then you look at your calendar and you realize you're going to start your cycle in a few days. So, having those commitments is great, but knowing when to release them is even more loving sometimes. So does that make sense? I'm sure that we're on the same page here. So are there any more questions about that personally, or Anything like that before I move on? Yeah, should is a dangerous word. And I've definitely said that my fair share of times. So I will talk more about feeling like intuitive guided self-care. So have either of you felt that before, where you're like have a plan and then you go off of plan because your intuition is kind of telling you to do something else? For me, I can't actually be really regimented in planning, so maybe opposite of you, Kimberly. So I will have an idea to do a practice in the morning, and then there is beauty in committing and following through, of course. But then there's been mornings where the moon just like stares at me, and I just have to sit there and do nothing, which has always been kind of hard for me because I even used to have trouble taking baths because I'm like, well, what am I doing at this time? So um, I feel like we teach what we need to learn. So self care has been a huge struggle for me in my life. Not that I make time for self care. I'm really into personal, like I said, but I don't make time or haven't made time in the past to intuitively check in with my self care. And so that's something I've been learning. And so as I teach it, I'm also learning and relearning the things to integrate them in myself. So, May, I'm going to read what you said. I started a big list of things I had to do every day, and it totally overwhelmed me. Mhm. Instead of building me up like I intended, so I had just had to accept that my limitations are clearly not what I think they are. Yes. So, oh my God, I've been there. And then being a mom too, you have no idea what your day is gonna look like. So that's another thing. Um, that might even be a whole nother realm. But so there's this like pressure because of the commodification of self-care. So this pressure to be someone in a, especially as a spiritual person, that there's like these expectations of these things that you do daily, that you don't ever watch Netflix, that you never sit there and eat cookies, and I don't know, I'm just making this up. So I've also had that huge list. Even this year I had this huge list, and I'm so grateful that my intuition was like, nope, you're not doing all of these things. And it's okay if you I do love waking up early, so that's something I want to keep, and that's something I know is good for me. But whatever happens in that space is fine. And sometimes it is just sitting there and staring at the moon, or um, laying on my back because I'm really tired because my son didn't sleep all night. I'm sure you can relate to that, May. So your intuition told you what your limitations are, and your self-love is teaching you what to do instead, like what you need that day. And as a mother, I feel like what we need each day, it just changes because sometimes our kids decide something else for us. So, but that's a whole nother talk. So we have about 10 minutes left. I wanted to like kind of ask if you had any more questions about what self-care is, if you have any ideas of what self-love is, if you've learned anything in this short amount of time. Um, Intuition guiding your practice, that would be a challenge for you this week and for myself. Because I'm not going to say I'm never like saying what I should do. I still struggle once in a while with that. So I think I'll take a little break here and let check in with yourself. Place your hand, take a deep breath, place your hand on your heart and on your lower belly. And just ask yourself, how would you have me care for you? How would you have me care for you? So I'm getting for myself, that sleep is important, and I've been struggling with that for quite some time. So sleep is the word sleep came here from. So this is something you can do every single morning. Just do that. Maybe that is your self-care practice for that day, and that's it. Checking in with yourself. That could be your challenge for these next week, 2 weeks, to just say, how would you have me care for you? You can even look yourself in the eyes in the mirror. How would you have me care for you? That would even be so much more powerful if you're comfortable looking at yourself in the mirror right now. So hand on the heart, hand on the lower belly, breathing. Just do that. And then if you get a message, go with it. If you don't, that's your self-care practice right there. How would you have me care for you? So the lighting's all strange now because the sun's setting. So in May, yes, it's helped reinforce some things I've been learning. It's nice to know that I'm not alone in all this. No. I love that. Listen. So the word that came through for May is listen, and that knowing that she's not alone in this. So you are definitely not alone. I think a lot of us I think this whole group is just full of helper types who want to do really big things, really intelligent people, curious people, and we have high expectations of ourselves. That's what I'm finding in this group, and the people I work with is those high expectations, and I have high expectations of myself, and so sometimes we need to let go, and sometimes we need to listen. Quiet. Yeah, less words swimming around in my head. Meditation, listening to music, that's beautiful, Kimberly. So I can relate to that. I'm like addicted to learning. I'm always like filling my head with stuff, and I'm getting that. I need to just like intuitively learn instead of like having a list of things I need to learn every day. So even something you love doing, sometimes you need to take a step back from it. I don't know if you're like me, Kimberly, where you just love information. I'm getting you are. So quiet, listen, and I'm getting sleep. Mine is like super physical. And I also dream. I feel like sometimes I don't value dream work enough. Like my dreams can't happen if I'm not sleeping enough. So that's something I'm really getting. And I do have a toddler that doesn't sleep through the night still. So that is really tough on me physically. But what if I went to bed earlier, and gave up all the work that I have to, there's a lot of things that we can do, to get, and when our intuition tells us something, that's a gift. And so your intuition told you need quiet. Your intuition told you need to listen. And we got some good breaths in there too. So the next few weeks, I am going to be going over some things in the next 2 weeks. I probably do one every other week. I'm going to put them on the schedule so you know when they're coming up. But I'll go over the topics I have so far. Dreaming, yeah. I'm going to take a break to read this. So, yes, Kimberly says she loves learning and it's hard to stop when I'm overwhelmed. I have lots of shoulds around what I want to learn about. Oh my God, me too, Kimberly. We can work on that together. And I miss dreaming too. So I'm not sure if you have trouble sleeping as well, but dreaming is like become really powerful for me. So, but I need to sleep in order to dream, right? So hopefully I look more well rested next time. Yeah. So the next topics we'll be going through is what is self-care? Well, we already did that. What is self-care and why we need it? I'm guessing we all understand why we need it. This is a really smart group of people here. We all understand we need self-care. We all understand that we should, self-love is just the vessel for everything. So self-love allows us to live our authentic self in the world. It allows us to pour love to others. I know that's really cliche, but when you love yourself, you love others. You can't. I'll use an example. If I have invested in myself that day, my dog even acts like Palmer at my side when I walk her. She's not like freaking out because she can definitely, dogs and children, all those, they can pick up on things that we aren't even aware of ourselves. So that anxiety that I have, if I don't have a self-care practice, no matter what it looks like, that happens. So self-care is also maintenance for a lot of health issues, so mental health issues, and that's a whole nother topic. Actually, one of the topics we'll be going over. So what is self-care, why we need it? I think we went over that today. How to do self-care without doing all the things, and I think a lot of us need that. It's not your fault. That's the topic next time. How to create a self-care routine in a space that works for self-care, keeping in mind their intuitive guidance. Boundaries, I had already written, but it looks like a lot of us need some assistance with that. How to explain to those that we love that we need self-care. Self-care, the next topic, self-care and barriers, including mental illness, substance abuse, motherhood, things like that. That'll probably be heavy. I would like for a lot of us to be involved in that discussion so that we can pinpoint exactly what needs to be talked about during that time. And then lastly, we'll go over ideas for self-care, tarot, yoga, mindfulness, all those things, and not to add to our list of things to do, but to give us ideas. And then maybe your intuition, if you hear an idea, your heart will skip or something like that. So that is what we're going to be going over. All of these little lives will be right here in the group. I'm going to allow people to add people to the group for this, as long as you're sure that they would benefit from this. And so far, everyone's been really nice and all that. But so sorry it's getting so dark. Winter, right? And then I will say that my course is still $25. I'm not advertising it to anyone else but outside the group. So if you are interested in that, I will say that yoga is on its way to this course, so it's definitely going to go up in price in order to be fair to my time and all that. So you can get it for $25, and in probably 3 months or so, it's going to have yoga. I will be including calls on that, 30-minute calls eventually as well. So if you have the resources now, you can get that for $25. And I'm also, from what you guys have told me, just release all the content at once. That way it is not sent out every week, so it's more clear. So that course includes rituals, ritual baths, video. It also includes worksheets and all that. So if that is in your realm of accessibility, then definitely let me know, and I will let you know I'll put a link up. And I'm also going to post the temperance card, because I feel like I should have probably put that card up to show this feedback between self-care and self-love. Are there any other questions before I go? Before it's completely pitch black? All right, you guys. Thank you so much for being here, and let me know if you have any questions. Love to you guys. Bye.